Hello, thanks for your interest in this video keyword project. My name is Ken Shapiro. I'm the founder of Animals and Society Institute, editor of Society and Animals Journal, and co-editor of the Journal of Applied Animal Welfare Science. Human animal studies has many names. Some of these might be considered subfields. Others are journal names that are sometimes used to refer to the entire field. So we have Anthro-Zoos, Animal Studies, Animals and Society Studies, Animalia, Humanialia, Human-Animal Interactions, Critical Animal Studies, and the name we use in Society and Animals that I'm using here, Human-Animal Studies. The purpose of this video is to suggest how and why the field came to have so many names, to understand why these vying names what they signify about the field and what they might portend for the future of the field. So why so many names, and more importantly, is that something we should worry about or celebrate? An example of a worry. The many handles may fractionate the field and leave it vulnerable to assimilation or worse, cannibalization by one of the neighboring disciplines. This might then result in the loss of the characteristic multidisciplinarity of the field, which I think we all agree is critical to its being and definition. Also, although the field has had a meteoric rise, this has mostly been in the area of scholarly productivity. We're just beginning to gain more programmatic presence in the universities, and this is where the fractionization and absorption might be a problem. Also, I think we are seeing some tension in the field about this many handles issue. And this may or may not be a constructive use of our time and energy. So not to be alarmist, however, there is a consensus in the field about the definition and scope of the field, the study of human-animal relationships. Also, the field, the scholars generally are quite committed, partly because of the relationship between this field and the project of improving our treatment of other animals. One final reassurance, the field eventually will have one name, and that name will refer to the substance of the field as it has evolved at that time. In any case, here's some thoughts about the sources of the many handles issue. First, the categorical error that we're all familiar with. Saying humans and animals is as wrong-headed as saying vegetables and tomatoes. The categorical error itself has its origin in the oft-cited Western tradition in philosophy and religion. Arguably, however, there's a psychological basis for the categorical error, which is the human interest in distinguishing itself from other animals and really dissociating itself from other animals, and in a political context, maintaining and establishing the hegemony of humans over other animals. So an example of this, we have animal studies and Animalia pushing back against Anthro-Zoos and human animal studies for reinforcing the categorical error. Of course, animal studies is a name already taken, particularly for those in the natural sciences and psychology, where it refers to laboratory animal research, ironically the kind of enterprise for which the new field intended to provide a corrective. A second source of the many handles, the fact of the multidisciplinarity of the field. Currently, as many as 20 different fields have discovered and investigated human-animal relationships from that field's perspective. Scholars with different primary discipline affiliations have provided names that fit the language and topics typical of that primary field. An example of this is the discipline-specific name in psychology, human-animal interactions. The term relationships is replaced by the term interactions because for psychologists that has a more clear, observable behavioral referent. A third source of the many handles issues from the debate within the field around the proper relation between scholarship and advocacy. The rise of human-animal studies, historically, at least in part, is a response to the emergence of the animal rights social justice movement. So how directly should scholarship be influenced by concern about the ethics of our treatment of other animals? That concern varies by discipline. Those in the disciplines of the natural sciences are more resistant to it. Those in the humanities more comfortable with the advocacy role. So an example of that, critical animal studies, is a name chosen to associate itself directly with a social justice agenda. It is upfront about advocating directly for the critique of current practices, institutional, economic systems, and so forth. So in conclusion, we've identified three sources of the many handles: the categorical error embedded in our language and institutional forms of the treatment of animals, the encouraging fact that so many disciplines have a clear interface with human-animal relationships, and with the coming of age of the field, a more confident assumption of the role of advocate in scholarship. Thank you.